The Night of the Black Knives is one of the most important events to understand Elden Ring's lore. I believe that Radagon was the true mastermind behind the Night of the Black Knives. As you may have guessed, Radagon being a co-conspirator with Ranni is a twist on the popular theory that Marika was part of the plot to kill Godwyn. Marika definitely has the means and opportunity to pull off such a scheme, but for me, the biggest obstacle to the theory that Marika was involved in the Night of the Black Knives was her motive, or more accurately, her lack thereof. We're told on numerous occasions that
Queen Marika was driven to the brink
after Godwyn was killed, and on the official Elden Ring website, Bandai Namco even called the death of Godwyn a devastating loss for Marika. But it's a completely different story for Radagon. Radagon is not the father of Godwyn. As we learned during Goldmask's questline, Radagon is Marika. So almost any time the game mentions Marika, you could swap in Radagon instead. Now, Elden Ring is a bit vague on the mechanics of Radagon and Marika sharing a body, but Radagon working with Ranni would solve some of the logistical issues behind the Night of the Black Knives. From his time as Marika, Radagon would know where Maliketh is, where he kept the Rune of Death, and where to attack Godwyn and the other demigods. So with that insight, let's take a look at some of Marika's lore in a whole new light. According to the Black Knife set, the Black Knife assassins were rumored to be Numen who had close ties with Marika herself, but since Radagon is Marika, we can also say that the assassins had close ties with Radagon himself. Then there's the Numen's rune. The Numen are said to have come from outside the lands between, and are in fact of the same stock as Queen Marika herself. Or put another way, the Numen would have the same stock as Radagon himself. As Roger tells us,
Say the assassins who carried out the deed were scions of the Eternal City, a group entirely of women, arrayed in armor of silver under cloaks which fooled the eye.
And for what it's worth, in the 1.0 version, the Nox were part of the Empyrean family, while the Night Maiden and Swordstress puppets were called a descendant of Marika. So again, the Nox puppets would have been descendants of Radagon in that version. In a great video on the Night of the Black Knives, Smotown points out that the Black Knife assassins are most likely connected to Sellia, since the town of sorcery is connected with assassinations, the Eternal Cities, and camouflaging spells. And during his time at Raya Lucaria, Radagon studied alongside many Sellian sorcerers, and one of his sons, Radagon, did learn gravity magic in Sellia. Now let's take a look at the Mimic's Veil. This is a golden veil of intricate design, also known as Marika's Mischief. But since Radagon is Marika, the veil could also be called Radagon's Mischief. Personally, I think Radagon was the one who actually sewed the Mimic's Veil. After all, he is a seamster who has his own gold sewing needle and golden tailoring tools. And if Radagon sewed the Mimic's Veil, it would make a lot of sense if he also sewed the concealing veil for the Black Knife armor sets. What's more, the Mimic's Veil tells us that when Godric was hounded from Leyndell, the royal capital, this was one of a multitude of treasures he took with him. We also learn from Kenneth Haidt that Godric pretended to be a woman when he fled Leyndell. In other words, the Mimic's Veil can be used to disguise people as a different gender, so the veil could let Radagon disguise himself as Marika. This could explain why Maliketh felt he was betrayed and tricked by Marika. According to his remembrance, Maliketh was a shadow-bound beast given to his Empyrean. Marika's sole need of her shadow was a vessel to lock away destined death. Even then, she betrayed him. There's also this line from Maliketh himself, "Marika, why wouldst thou gull me?" So according to the third best dog in the game, Maliketh was tricked by Marika, or by what he thought was Marika. And for what it's worth, the law of regression can actually undo Maliketh's destined death attack, but it also reveals mimicry in all its forms. So I could see Radagon trying to reapply the Mimic's Veil behind a pillar, which creates a very funny mental image. This does raise the question of why Godwyn was targeted. It's not outright stated in the game, but I believe that Godwyn was supposed to be the next Elden Lord. After all, Godwyn is of the Golden lineage, which would make him a worthy heir for the throne. We also know that Godwyn was a war hero who defended Leyndell and befriended Fortisax when the ancient dragons attacked the royal capital. But with Godwyn dead, Radagon would ensure his place as Elden Lord. And remember, Godwyn the Golden was just the first of the demigods to die, and we do know that other demigods were killed on the Night of the Black Knives. Personally, I think the other dead demigods were other children from Marika and Godfrey's marriage. And if that's the case, they presumably would be next in line for the Elden Throne after Godwyn. So to fully accomplish their goals, Radagon and Ranni would need to kill them all. In addition, we have this monologue from a finger reader crone in the deep root depths.
Such cruelty. Such humiliation. Oh, my poor sweet lordling should have died a true death. As the first of the demigods to die. As a martyr to destined death. But why must it yet bring such disgrace? A scion of the Golden Bough, sentenced to live in death. How could such a thing come to be?
Calling Godwyn a scion of the Golden Bough is a clear allusion to the Golden Bough, one of the most influential works in anthropology. According to Sir James Frazer, the killing of the god, that is, of his human incarnation, is therefore merely a necessary step to his revival or resurrection in a better form. The man-god must be killed as soon as he shows symptoms that his powers are beginning to fail, and his soul must be transferred to a vigorous successor before it has been seriously impaired by the threatened decay. I believe that there was something wrong with Godwyn, and there was a ritual planned to transfer his soul and mind to a new body. And this body was going to be provided by one of the nameless demigods who now lie in the wandering mausoleums. We have this spoken echo from Melina.
Hear me, demigods, my children beloved, make of thyselves that which ye desire. Be it a lord, be it a god, but should ye fail to become aught at all, ye will be forsaken, amounting only to sacrifices.
Then there's the NPC ghost you can find in the Weeping Peninsula near a wandering mausoleum. The mausoleum prowls, cradling the soulless demigod. O Marika, Queen Eternal, he is your unwanted child. This language was actually softened. In the English translation for the 1.0 version, unwanted child was instead translated as misshapen bastard. In other words, Marika was warning her kids that if they didn't shape up, they would be nothing more than a husk to house the soul of a better demigod. Of course, since Radagon is Marika, there is the possibility that he was actually the one warning the demigods as Marika, and the NPC ghost may have been lamenting one of the children unwanted by Radagon. So Marika did want Godwyn to die, but it was to resurrect his body in another form. And when that plan was sabotaged by Ranni on the Night of the Black Knives, Marika was driven to the brink. What exactly was wrong with Godwyn isn't too relevant to this video, but if you're curious, I give my own theory in these two separate videos. If Radagon were behind the Night of the Black Knives, this would offer another motivation for why he is so ruthless in his persecution of those who live in death. Those skelly boys are traces of Godwyn that Radagon wants to eliminate. The game heavily implies that Radagon leads the hunt against those who live in death. The Litany of Perfect Death attack is highly effective against the Skelly Boys, but creates an image of order that's the same T-pose as Radagon, which Goldmask later appropriated. The incantation also tells us that the role of the hunters is to stamp out defiled reason, all for the perfection of the Golden Order. But as Last Protagonist pointed out, in the Japanese for Radagon's boss fight, Radagon and the Golden Order are effectively one and the same. And from Radagon's icon, we know that Radagon did aspire to be complete, or in the Japanese, he aimed for perfection. As Roger tells us,
Do you know of those who live in death, The very notion of life in death defies the Golden Order. By Dee's account, these defiled fiends must be expunged. But truth be told, I seek the curse mark to save them. You may find this peculiar, but I discovered something in my examination of the Night of the Black Knives. These souls have committed no offense. They have every right to life, only they happen to touch upon a flaw in the Order.
And for what it's worth, in the 1.0 version, Radagon's Ring of Light was called Divine Law's Punishment, while the Tibius Summons spell was called the Law of the Undying. So even on a metaphysical level, there would have been opposition between Radagon's Golden Order and those who live in death. Let's talk about Ranni. We already know that Ranni collaborated with her brother Rykord in plotting the Night of the Black Knives. And of course, both Ranni and Rykord are Radagon's children. There is already an incentive for Radagon to help them out. I think Ranni knew Radagon had to die before she could usher in the Age of Stars. In the cutscene for her ending, she says,
"The battle is over, I see."
So Ranni knew that the Tarnished had to fight someone. And Ranni is one of the only people in the Lands Between who could know the truth about Radagon and Marika. But she doesn't seem that distraught or distressed about her dad dying. Now, we do know that both Rykord and Radahn admired Radagon since they proudly had red hair in their helmets. But we don't know what Ranni thought of Radagon. She never mentions her father at all. As we see from the opening for Rennala's second phase, Ranni was obviously close with her mother. So I think Ranni was playing the long game to get back at her father for abandoning Rennala.
Bonds are fragile things, wont to break under strain. And once they're broken, everything is lost, with naught to gain.
One quick word on the timeline. I believe that the Night of the Black Knives happened when Radagon was Elden Lord. According to Roger,
it happened during the Golden Age of the Erd Tree. Someone stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Maliketh, the Black Blade, and on a bitter night, murdered Godwyn the Golden.
Now, this is the only time the game refers to a Golden Age in both the English and in the Japanese. But I believe that the Golden Age is referring to Radagon's Golden Order. From the Golden Epitaph, we do know that Miquella knew Godwyn, and Miquella was only born after Radagon became Elden Lord. There's also the fact that Godwyn was the one who defended Leyndell, not Godfrey. And at the Stormcaller Church, which commemorates that battle, there's a statue of Radagon, not Marika. To me, that suggests that Radagon was Elden Lord when the dragons attacked Leyndell. And of course, we do know that Marika ultimately shattered the Elden Ring after the Night of the Black Knives, and Radagon being Elden Lord is significantly closer to that event than whenever Godfrey was Elden Lord. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know what yens think. I'd also like to thank all of my YouTube members and supporters on Patreon.